Hello there, people of the internet. We are back again today with another exciting video. This time we have our yearly tier list, our annual tier list video. Now, as many of you guys know, this YouTube channel primarily focuses on RPGs, role-playing games, specifically JRPGs. I love those games, and if you're here, presumably on this channel watching this video, you love JRPGs too. Now, there's only one little minor problem with it. They kind of suck. No, I'm just playing. The one problem with JRPGs is that there's a lot of them, and Jesus Christ, they take a really long time to play through and finish. I kind of had a bit of a spiritual awakening, if you must, after playing Xenoblade Chronicles X, a game where it took me quite literally nearly 200 hours just to beat the game. And this is something that I wish I could say isn't the norm for RPGs and JRPGs, specifically JRPGs. A lot of them are lengthy experiences that have a lot to unpack and encapsulate. It's because of that I kind of had an inspiration to make this YouTube video. There's a lot of RPGs in the world, a lot of JRPGs in the world. I'm only one person, only one human being who can only cover so many things so much. And you know, as much as I'd love to sit down and talk about every single JRPG I've ever played in my life, that would require me going back and playing through all of them, and I just don't have the time to do that. So, as an alternative, why not just be the hot take machine that I am and put them all into a tier list? So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Alright, so this tier list is going to comprise of games that I have beaten, things that I consider JRPGs that I've actually played through, and you know, there are a lot of games out there that I haven't played, so obviously there are things that aren't going to be on this list that you guys might think, well, why isn't this here? This game's good, this game's not good. You know, every single game has its devoted fan bases, every single game has people who will vehemently defend it no matter how good or bad someone could perceive it, and a person whose entire personality and life seems to be attached to defending said video game. I'm kind of doing this for fun, you guys. I'm gonna be honest with you. Don't take anything I say personally, okay? I'm just gonna give you my candid, straight opinions on a lot of these titles, and I'm not really gonna hold back. And of course, I know some of you guys get a keyboard warrior if you see this, and you know, this is content, this is engagement. It got you to click on the video, right? Cool. All right, cool. With that said, I have this categorized into a few different sections here. You know, there are some categories that I think might need some explaining, so I'll jump right into it. So of course, the top section is the GOATed, the greatest of all time game. And you know I had to do it to him. I had to do it to him. I'm already putting him up there. You already know. I mean, you already know. There's no reason for me to not do it. Okay. This section is devoted for games that are the cream of the crop, JRPGs I would never not play. The next section are great games. You know, JRPGs that are great, and they left a little bit of an impression on me, but they're not necessarily the best things I've ever played in my life, and you think fondly back on it, but you know, it's not something that's S+ tier, not like Xenoblade. And then there's the good but not great category. Those are just kind of reserved for games that, you know, they're a little bit above average, but maybe there are some few aspects that hold them back. Next tier is passable. Passable games are games that, you know, I can sit through it and play through it. Maybe it's just not providing an experience different or better than games around it. Then there is the never want to play again category. Now this is a really kind of specific category of game where it is a game that I have fully played through and completed, and maybe I did enjoy a lot of aspects of it. Maybe I thought it was a great game. I will probably never ever want to play that video game again in my life. If it could be for one reason, maybe like there was one really difficult boss or segment that just held the game back for you, or maybe you were waiting and playing, you know, everyone says with JRPGs, oh, you know, it takes like 20-30 hours to get good, and maybe you were waiting 30 hours to get good and the payoff just wasn't there, you know. And that's what this category is kind of devoted to, is a game that maybe you did like it, but there's some part of it that makes you go, I don't think I want to play that again. And there's going to be some pretty hot takes in that category, so yeah, you get ready for that. Next one is, of course, the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 tier. This is the disappointments tier. It's a tier of game that necessarily isn't horrible. It's not unplayable. It's not the worst thing. Can say it did not meet my expectations, and it's something that I probably will never want to touch again in my life. You already know my opinions on Xenoblade 2. I'm not going to get into that. That's why I just threw this into the tier already, because I'm not going to talk about this game today. If you want an hour and a half long analysis and thorough nitpicking of Xenoblade 2, you can watch my video on that, which I'll have just annotated in the top corner. We'll probably throw it on the screen too, I don't know. Yeah. And then the last category goes to bad games. Now that I don't expect to fill a whole lot into this category, because I don't go out on my way to play bad video games. I go out on my way to play fun video games, games that people recommend me, games that I want to play. But I'm not gonna lie, there have been a couple stinkers in my life, man. There have been a couple really bad games in my life. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So first, we have Persona 3 FES, and I can comfortably say that despite my love for the Persona series, despite my love for Persona and just Persona 3 and the atmosphere and the fun, you know, kind of the dourness of it, I never want to play this video game again in my life. Like, there's so much frustrating bullshit in Shin Megami Tensei Persona 3 and Persona 3, especially in the additional story. The game is just so brutally difficult and so random and just kind of unfair. You could be walking by an enemy that, you know, you didn't notice was in front of you, or maybe you could walk by one of those glowing, you know, kind of purplish enemies that can fuck you up. And then there's so many instances where you have Mitsuru and you just want her to use Bufu. You just want her to use Bufu, and she uses Marin Karen. Why would you do that? Why would you make me suffer like that? But yeah, Persona 3, great video game, fantastic game. Don't get me wrong, I love Persona 3. I love all the Persona games. But do I, with all the bullshit, especially with that final boss too, no, I don't ever want to play that game again. So next, moving on. A little game called Valkyria Chronicles. Now, Valkyria Chronicles is a game that I have never really talked about on the channel extensively. I did want to make videos on it in the past, but I like Valkyria Chronicles a lot. It was kind of my first exposure to the Fire Emblem style game, but I think the most unique draw and aspect to it is the fact that you kind of have complete agency over your units in a way. Of course, there are some random elements I don't like, despite the fact that you literally can aim with your allies and your units. There's still a chance that their bullets just kind of miss because RNG. That's always fun. And then, you know, some of the level design, it makes it a little linear. It makes it a little difficult to really, there's always an optimal path. There's always optimal characters and placement for them. And it kind of feels like it boxes itself in some corners sometimes. But in all honesty, Valkyria Chronicles, it's a fantastic game. It's a great game. Nier Gestalt. Now, I have not played Nier Replicant. And I know there are some differences in Nier Replicant, and I kind of want to really jump into it, but I have played the Gestalt version. I'm just going to say it's probably just a good game. I don't think it's necessarily like one of the best RPG experiences I've ever had personally. I just think the art style and some of the combat decisions in Nier Gestalt kind of hold it back. They really tried to westernize it, and I don't think that worked out to the degree that they thought it would. Chrono Cross. Now, Chrono Cross is a game that I love. It's not necessarily one of the greatest RPGs I've ever played, but I think it's great. I mean, I don't think there's much to say that other people haven't said about Chrono Cross. But the game is just so weird. I think the game itself is definitely well built, well structured. I don't know. It's hard for me to articulate because it's been a very long time since I played Chrono Cross. But I'm feeling a great for Chrono Cross. It's a great game. So Persona 4 Golden. You guys, the more I've deliberated on Persona 4 Golden, the more I absolutely fucking love it. It is a game that I will forever hold dearly in my heart, and it's part of it's the mystery kind of twist, the mystery story kind of twist you have with your kind of ragtag group of friends, and part of it is just that Persona appeal, you know, the whole vicariously living the life of a socialite because you don't have a social life yourself. That's me. I don't have a social life. It makes so much almost unintentional, completely unintentional in some aspects, sharp commentary that I think has aged pretty decently nowadays. Kanji's arc, while I like Naoto's kind of arc, but I also don't think the game knew what it was going to talk about, because these are discussions we're having now in 2022, you know, over a decade after the game came out. And these are things that have been kind of more so recent in the last few years. I don't think Atlas or the developers of Persona 4 Golden ever expected those kinds of discussions to really be at the forefront of modern society, but they somehow managed to kind of encapsulate the essence of them in the stories. And I think that kind of makes it almost a timeless game, you know? The next game is Dragon Quest Swords. Dragon Quest Swords is a bad game. It's not a good game. I kind of put this one on the list because I thought it was a bad game. It's not indicative of the Dragon Quest series overall. Dragon Quest has got really fantastic video games in it. The mechanics aren't very good. The story barely exists. The characters are so boring, and it's literally a hallway. The entire game is a hallway, and then you wave your Wii remote around. And I blame it for why we didn't get Dragon Quest games for like a decade. The next game is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. I'm gonna put Birth by Sleep in the passable section. I think it is okay. There are some gameplay decisions that were made in terms of, you know, the shuffling the card system, playing through as 3 different characters, one of which is just better than the others. They kind of hold the game back a little bit. A lot of people blame this game for being like almost the death knell for the Kingdom Hearts series story, where it just kind of flew off the rails so hard. The last story. Now this is something I covered on my YouTube channel here. You guys know I played this game a couple of years back, and do I look back on it the same way I did on my initial playthrough? Yeah, I think it's a pretty good game. I think it's all right. I think the combat's really exploitable, and I think there's obviously some unfinished aspects of the story by the end of the game. Definitely feels like they rushed out the last bit of the game, the ending, the last chunk. But overall, the game is really fun. Oh, this one. I know a few people who like this game. Final Fantasy X too. You guys, this is the first take I think you guys are gonna hate me for. Final Fantasy X 2. It's not good. It's not a good game. I'm sorry, it's not a good game. Now, okay, I'm going to put it in front of Dragon Quest Swords because it's not unplayable like Dragon Quest Swords is, okay? It's not horrible. There's definitely some good elements to it with Shuyin and their kind of struggling, you know, relationship. I definitely like certain elements of it. I think the combat's pretty decent. There are some exploitable elements to the combat in Final Fantasy X too. Jesus Christ, this game is just so Charlie's Angels. It's just so ridiculous. The main villains are literally Team Rocket. And I mean, again, not every game has to be, you know, like, not every game has to follow the kind of standard JRPG plot of being, you know, grandiose and larger than life and saving the world. And in a way, I kind of really see what they were trying to do, and I appreciate what the game was offering. Tried to kind of divert itself from its roots as being, you know, filled with nothing but edgy, dour protagonists who hate everything, and plots about gods being evil and the world being shit, and they wanted to make a more bubbly, you know, upbeat game. But I think it kind of comes off really bad, especially with some of the character designs and some of the more sexualized aspects and moments of the game, especially when you consider the fact that most of these characters are minors. But we're not going to get into that one. Okay, I'll give you a concession on this. I would call it a disappointment more than anything, especially for a lot of the people who played Final Fantasy X and wanted more of Final Fantasy X. This did not give them more of Final Fantasy X. This gave them fucking something else. So the next game, Dragon Quest VIII. Dragon Quest VIII is goated. Dragon Quest VIII is fucking so good. Dragon Quest VIII is one of the best RPGs. If you haven't played Dragon Quest VIII, find a way, 3DS, PlayStation 2, pirate it on the internet, I don't care, play Dragon Quest VIII. It was so fucking far ahead of its time when it released that it felt like watching an anime. It felt like watching a really good anime, but at the same time, the combat was fantastic. The enemy designs, level, and open world exploration was just so fucking refreshing in a JRPG like this. To have yourself immersed in a role of a character. And in some aspects, this game was so ahead of its time that games that we look at now, things like Breath of the Wild, almost inadvertently emulated what this game tried to do. It really isn't a waypoint system. You kind of have to familiarize yourself with the world and the environments. You can kind of just stumble into certain areas and towns and just go on random side quests because of it. The game doesn't necessarily have a direct path to give you and wants you to kind of wander around this world. And oh my god, it has some of the best scenarios in any Dragon Quest game, some of the best characters and designs of any Dragon Quest game. It is so good. It is such a good... I want to make a video on this game so bad, guys. I would say Final Fantasy 15 is a good but not great game. Final Fantasy 15, there's a lot of fun aspects to it, but it's not necessarily a game that I think is better than other Final Fantasy games, or do I think it's better than majority of the series. It's just good. It's pretty good. The next, Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 is a big disappointment. It's a big fat disappointment. How are you going to tell me you're not going to put a Sephiroth fight when Smash Brothers could do it? How are you going to tell me there's no Final Fantasy characters in the base game? How are you going to tell me that you're just going to copy and paste every single movie that is pretty much inside of this game, scene for scene, with no context at all? Why am I looking at a literal shot-for-shot rendition of Let It Go? In the Pirates world, the second movie quite literally takes place while Sora, Donald, and Goofy are beached somewhere, and they don't have any impact on the events of the game. This game is so fucking funny to me. I can jump into so many reasons, but yeah, I think you already got it. Ys 8. Ys 8. This is another good but not great game. I kind of thought it was boring, if I want to be honest with you guys. Some elements I thought were a little boring, but I kind of like the idea of you know, main characters getting beached and stranded, but it just kind of ends up being way too anime sometimes. And I mean, the anime thing kind of works, but it just felt like generic-y, you know. It didn't feel like the good kind of way too anime. It felt kind of schlocky. So I don't know, it's just me. Digimon World 3. This is a passable game. It's only passable because the design of the game is not really that good. I love Digimon. I love the aesthetic. I love the kind of world that encapsulates it. But it's only okay. It's only okay. And it hasn't aged super well too, I don't think, but being on the PS1. Next game is Persona 5. Oh, Persona 5. Oh yeah, you guys. Oh, and the Royale's there too. We'll just bundle them together pretty much. So I'll say Persona 5 and Royale are both great experiences, both fantastic games. I don't think they're the best Persona games personally. I think that goes to Persona 4 Golden, but Persona 5 has a lot of really amazing elements, great graphic design, great renditions to combat, just great characters, fun story, good game. Ni no Kuni. So I'm gonna be real with you guys. I think Ni no Kuni is kind of carried by the art style. I think the Studio Ghibli art style carries a lot and shapes a lot of people's opinions on this game, when it's kind of just another kind of run-of-the-mill Pokemon-ish clone, you know, like kind of like a Yokai Watch, kind of like Dragon Quest Monster Joker there. But do I think it's bad? No, I don't think it's bad. I think it definitely blows its load pretty early. It's pretty good. It has a really emotional moment at the very beginning of the game, and then it doesn't really live up to that any point later on. And again, a big part of it just kind of feels like the Studio Ghibli art style kind of carries the game a bit. So that's just me personally. I don't know. Yeah, hot take machine on the way. Next game is so I kind of want to blast through these as much as I can. So we're going to move a little bit quickly through some of these games, get my opinions through, because I don't want this video to be too long for you guys. So Golden Sun. I think Golden Sun is a good JRPG game and series. The first game is definitely good. It is fun, enjoyable, play it again. Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, that is a good game. Good but not great. It definitely has the Pokemon elements to it that make it fun. It kind of is like SMT in a way. But I just don't ever think it's a game that I would say is cream of the crop fantastic. Fire Emblem Awakening. Fire Emblem Awakening was my first Fire Emblem game, and I would say it is a great video game, a great Fire Emblem game. Now there's so many ways to unpack what happens in that game, but ultimately it's just a fun experience. It's just fun and a great kind of strategy RPG game. If you're looking for XCOM but for weeaboos, you got it right there. So next is Valkyria Revolution. Valkyria Revolution is a bad video game. I think everyone agrees Valkyria Revolution is a bad video game. There were so many unnecessary, watered down combat changes, and the story doesn't make much sense, and it just kind of felt like a half-assed excuse for, you know, a Valkyria Chronicles game. Yeah. Dark Cloud. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Dark Cloud is alright. I don't think it's aged as well as people think it has. There's a lot. It's pretty goofy, and the world is cool, and I like the world building aspect. It kind of reminds me of Digimon World 1 in that way, you know, something like that, you know, where you're building a town. But it's just okay. It's okay. So Xenoblade Chronicles X. Okay. I'll be honest with you. So this is going to be a topic in my video. I like this game. I think it is a great game, but I also never want to play it again in my life. It takes so long to do anything. I just, you're gonna see my take on that later, but just keep in mind, great game, but I never want to play it again. So The World Ends With You. The World Ends With You is a great JRPG. Fantastic. I've given my thoughts on it in my Neo The World Ends With You video, but it's you know, to put it shortly, if you were emo in the years between 2004 and 2010, this was the game for you. So next is Neo The World Ends With You. Neo is a good game. I think it's good. I don't think it necessarily hits in all the ways it wants to, but I think it's good. I think it's fun. Good game. Blue Dragon. I never want to play Blue Dragon again. Never again in my life. No. But I'm gonna have to, unfortunately, to finish the series. Okay, moving on. Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is greatest of all time. One of the best JRPGs ever. Such a unique combat system. Better than the Secret of Mana and the Children of Mana games. Such a unique, you know, just kind of world and story, kind of the time travel and almost dimension altering story that they go through. I just, like, it had so much potential, Chrono Trigger, to make, you know, a series beyond just what it was, you know, like in making a franchise, you know, like make an anime. You could make a movie. You could do so much. You could make manga, like, right? That would be so dope. But we only have this form of media to explore the world of Chrono Trigger. So, whatever. Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor. This game is fucking great, you guys. I don't know if you play Devil Survivor. It is so fucking good. It's kind of like an older school SMT experience where it's kind of on that grid movement system, but you control, you know, individual units, each with their own demons. This game it kind of takes place in Tokyo, where a bunch of kids are kind of locked inside. They each have death clocks, and the entire place is gonna, like, essentially blow the fuck up, and the world's gonna end. And, you know, each of them has a death clock on them that lets them know the exact day they're gonna die. So the entire time you're kind of anticipating this and trying to figure out how to either reset their clocks or what to anticipate to keep them from dying. And you can really make your own experience in that. Oh, it's so good. Like, you can choose different characters to save. Some will die depending on the decisions you make because you chose not to interfere and save them. Great game. Plus, the 3DS version had voice acting that was actually really good. Xenoblade 2 Torna. I think Xenoblade 2 Torna was great. This is a good experience. Definitely one of the better Xenoblade experiences in my opinion. I liked it so much more than 2. Some aspects I think held it down, but it's a great game. Great. Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is good, but not great. It is Digimon. It is good. Not really a whole lot else to say about that fun Digimon game. Dragon Quest XI is great JRPG right there. I think when it first came out, I thought it was honestly a bit overrated because I felt like everything it was doing, Dragon Quest VIII already did so much better. And it did it so much better like almost a decade ago. But then I realized, you know, if a formula ain't broke, you don't really gotta fix it. So I kind of mellowed out, and I've learned to appreciate the game a lot more for that reason, you know? So yeah, great game. Earthbound. Oh my god. Earthbound, Earthbound is goated. This one I didn't even know if I wanted to include in the JRPG list, because I don't know if it's JRPG entirely, but regardless, it's a goated game. It's so good. It's so fucking good. Definitely so unique, really messed up, where, you know, there's some effed up weird imagery, but the game, you know, has this veneer of childlike innocence to it. I love that. I'm a sucker for that shit, dude. Love it. So we have Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne. I never want to play that game again. If you've played that game, you know why. I never want to play it again. There you go. Final Fantasy 7. Now, I thought it was the remake and the original here. I guess I only put the remake here. So if we're talking about the original Final Fantasy 7, I think it is a great game. And if we're talking about the remake, you know, I think it's a great game too. Yeah, you know, we'll go with great. I think Final Fantasy 7 is a little overhyped, personally. I think I love it. I think it's fine. I think it's a great experience. It has a lot to say about, you know, bioterrorism and, you know, taking care of the environment, and just kind of, you know, commentaries on interpersonal demons and struggles and things like that. But oh my god, I've seen too much of this game in my lifetime. It's like, you know, like there are some songs you might listen to a couple times and you really like it, and then maybe they start playing it on the radio too much, and you're like, oh my god, I can't listen to it. You know, I can acknowledge it's good, but I can't listen to it anymore because I have been forced to listen to it everywhere I go. And that's discourse with Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII in general. Too much of it has existed in my lifetime. I can't. The game is good, okay? It's not that good, though. It's not that good. It's not that good, okay. So next is Persona 5 Strikers. I think Persona 5 Strikers is a good but not great game. I think there are some aspects of it. It suffers from pacing issues. It definitely suffers from having a hook. Not until some characters, you know, make their way kind of near the later part with Gramps with Akane. But most of it just kind of feels like you're frolicking with some old friends on a summer road trip, and that's a nice feeling to have, but I don't think it really has the hooks that the other Persona games do, you know? Next is Final Fantasy IV. Final Fantasy IV is a great game. I don't think it's aged as well as I'd want it to, but oh my god, there are so many great storytelling aspects to Final Fantasy IV. And the Spoony Bard thing is like, will forever be one of the most hilarious moments ever. Next is Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X is passable. Hate me all you want, internet. Hate me all you want. Final Fantasy X is a passable video game. The combat's good, and the world is great, and I love the open world environments and aspects of it. There's some beautiful, for the time, CGI cutscenes, and the soundtrack is fantastic. But oh my god, I can't stand the characters. Oh my god, the story is not that good. It's just, I just couldn't sit through it. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's okay. Shin Megami Tensei 5. I'm also gonna put that in passable. I enjoyed my time playing it, but I don't think it does anything better than most JRPGs nowadays, in all honesty. I think the brutal difficulty is a nice hook. It's definitely something to keep you into it. It's definitely a brilliant aspect of the game, but then everything else surrounding it is just so, like, boring. The story is just so boring at times, and all the demons are pretty much the same designs we've gotten for the last 2 decades. I definitely love the, you know, aspect of talking to them and kind of getting their personalities and having funny, you know, interactions with demons. And the open world is fun, or the sandbox world rather, is fun to explore and go around. But as a package overall, it was just okay. It was pretty good. I don't know if I want to play it again, but that's all right. Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. Okay, I want to put these together. Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, goated games. the best run of 2 JRPGs ever. I've talked about it so much, and I'm going to talk about Kingdom Hearts 1 more later this year, but keep in mind, fantastic JRPGs. I don't think anyone will deny that. Kingdom Hearts 2's gameplay is fantastic. Kingdom Hearts 1 just has that magical Disney vibe to it, in terms of capturing the essence of what Disney and going to like Disney World or watching a Disney movie feels like. In a way, it's funny that Disney kind of bought Star Wars, because before Star Wars was, a Disney thing, this feels like Disney's answers to Star Wars in a way. The first one at the very least does, or the first two, so just gonna throw that one in there. Ooh, this. Oh, that's weird that's... Okay, so I'm gonna start from Final Fantasy 13 first, actually. And I'm just gonna put them all together. Fuck it. I think the 3 run of Final Fantasy 13s are not good. Oh my god, that story makes no sense. Oh my god, I hate Snow so much. Oh my god, they ruined all of the aspects of Final Fantasy combat by pretty much making the gameplay itself. The Crystarium, you're literally not choosing levels. You're going up a grid. You're going through a hallway. The gameplay was so linear. You literally, every game, you walk through a singular linear hallway. Maybe it diverges a little bit and you find a collectible, but you always have to go back and go straight down the linear hallway. There's specifically the amount of enemies you need to reach, the level that you need to fight the boss. The gameplay literally plays itself because all you can do is switch your character's active role through the combat. And despite doing that, you don't have any direct control over their actions most of the time, because it's all auto combat pretty much. And then again, the story is just so fucking wacky and dumb. And if I'm gonna be honest with you, I think the Final Fantasy 13 games are probably the worst games I've ever played. Actually, no, that's not fully true. I think the worst. Not the worst games, but the worst JRPGs. I think the worst JRPG I probably ever played is Final Fantasy Type 0. Oh, that was a stinker. That was a stinker, but yeah. But yeah, no. Whew, not good. I'm sorry for people who like those games. I think Lightning has a really cool character design, really great, looking protagonist in terms of, she looks badass and it's great, but none of the characters in that game, there's barely any explanation or discussion of what occurs around. The game throws around all this confusing ass terminology without giving any context to it to the players, and it's just such a jumbled mess of a video game. I have so many things I want to say about that game in the future. Final Fantasy 13, keep it in mind. And I know you guys, a lot of you were waiting for this. Thanks for watching. I'm the hot take machine today. Okay, moving on. Bravely Default. Bravely Default was good, but not great. I liked it, but I think the only thing that separates it from like pretty much every other old school turn-based Final Fantasy type game was just the Brave and Default system, which I mean is cool. We can obviously see that like Pokemon's pretty much copying that now in Legends Arceus, but in terms of, I just thought it was just kind of another Final Fantasy style game aside from that. And I mean, nothing super remarkable, nothing to write home about, but pretty decent. With that said too, I'm going to put Octopath Traveler inside that category, inside the good but not great category. It is a good game, but I think it's the art style, much like Ni no Kuni, that really carries that game, because underneath it's just kind of another RPG, just kind of another game. And I mean, it's always fun to have those games, but it's just the art style that carries it, man. Okay, oh my god, Nier Automata. Nier Automata is goated, dude. It is so good. Such personalized commentary on the nature of humanity, what makes us human, all mixed together in this eclectic melting pot of gameplay. And I mean, some people criticize it, and I do too, for having the kind of Sonic Adventure style shit where you gotta beat the game 3 times in order to actually see the ending. But and once you get to ending 3, that's when the game gets really fucking good, and like the twists come in and the story actually starts being great. But like I think it drops the ball in some aspects a little later on. But overall, it is a game that I don't think I will ever forget. Personally, it is such a fantastic experience, and the soundtrack. Fire Emblem Fates Conquest. I'm going to include the other Fates games too, Birthright, and then the Final Answer one. And this was a disappointment. It was so boring as a follow-up to Fire Emblem Awakening. Really carried by the fact that people were thirsting over a lot of the characters, and it was kind of turning. This is the Fire Emblem game that everyone who doesn't like Fire Emblem points at to be like, this is why we don't like Fire Emblem. It's because of the petting simulator shit. It's because of the stupid fucking like focus on romance with these characters with tits that are bigger than their head, like, and it's the kind of the complete decentralization of the game aside from that. Because like aside from the whole having a choice thing in essentially playing through the same game 3 times and paying Nintendo 3 times for the same game, there's really nothing special about this one. And that's why I think they really wanted to lean on the romance aspect of it, because it felt painfully dull, in all honesty, the story. So that's just me. That's just me personally. Code Vein, I would also put this in bad game. You think anime Dark Souls would be really cool and really fun. Code Vein was not good. I thought the story made no lick of sense at all, and the boss battles were just confusing messes with really, like, they lacked the tells that and the good design that a lot of actual good Dark Souls bosses will have, and the game just looked so watered down. I thought the cell shading graphics will kind of help the game a little bit, but it just looks so dour and drab, and the combination of art styles just doesn't work. It wasn't that great. Fire Emblem Three Houses is a great game. Great game. Do I like it more than Awakening? Maybe. I don't know. It just, like, I feel like this was Nintendo's answer to the critical kind of panning that a lot of Fire Emblem fans gave to Fates, because this is Three Houses feels like Fate's done right. It feels like Fate's done right in a lot of ways, and I think if you've played it, you kind of know what I mean. You have the 3 factions, and you can experience the stories, and you grow an attachment to these characters that is more than just wanting to bone them, because you kind of are mentoring them as their teacher, and then you see how they've evolved later on, and you kind of grow that development to them personally. It's like when you meet up with old friends after years, playing is what playing the game kind of feels like. You get to see where everyone ended up. So yeah, great game, good game. Dragon Quest, is that, yeah, 6. Dragon Quest 6 was a good game. Good but not great. Liked it a lot. Pretty good. Devil Survivor 2, same thing. Devil Survivor 2 is good but not great, and I like Devil Survivor 1 a lot, but Devil Survivor 2 is more of the same. And I think, it's kind of part of that same thing with Dragon Quest 11, where it was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But at the same time, it just kind of was like, I already did this once before. Why am I going to do it again without any sort of change? So yeah. Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. This is the Redux version on 3DS. Strange Journey is so good. It is like Devil Survivor, but it leans more into the Shin Megami Tensei 3. If you want a spiritual successor to SMT3, that is Strange Journey. It is SMT, but sci-fi. Oh, that is so cool, dude. That is so good. I love that. So that's such a good angle. Tales of Symphonia. That's a goated game, dude. Lloyd Irving. That's my boy right there. There's nothing else I'm going to even say. The goated game. Fantastic video game. Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, or hashtag FE. This is that Fire Emblem and an SMT crossover game that everyone was kind of, hyping up during the Wii U as being like the savior of the console in a way. Um, I think it's honestly just passable. I mean, it's kind of good. It's a good game-ish, but I think it definitely missed the mark on some aspects that it wanted to. It really focuses, I think, a little too much on the kind of J-pop star culture that it really wants to lean into, and I like that to an extent. And I think the gameplay is okay, but I don't think the game does a whole lot to really differentiate itself from a lot of titles in the SMP catalog. Like, I don't look at this game and think, man, this is someone's favorite Shin Megami Tensei game. I just don't do that because it just feels like more of the same, and it doesn't feel like it does enough to elevate itself beyond what games around it are doing. So that's my excuse for that one. Dragon Quest V. Oh my god, I love this game. It's a great game, Dragon Quest V. The DS version was fantastic too, but I just love the idea of, like, your main character chooses kind of a marriage and relationship partner, and then there's a time skip, and the character has kids, and you kind of grow attachment to the kids. You get to name them and everything too. This is a cool little story. I like that a lot. And then you get the little tiger dude too. He's your partner. I loved it. It was such a feel good story, in all honesty, because you could choose between kind of like the noble princess of a land who's got a strong heart and good morals and will, or you could choose between your childhood best friend. And then if you're playing the DS version, you could also choose the bitch too, if you really wanted to. But it's just a fun feel good story that I think a lot of JRPGs need to do more often. They need to have more upbeat feel good stories like that can kind of be more relatable to everyday people. Yakuza Like a Dragon. Oh my god. It's good. And I also never want to play it again, but it's good. I don't think I ever want to play it again personally, but I think it's a great game. I think it's a good game rather. Definitely great example of the Yakuza team doing a fantastic job and transitioning to turn-based combat exclusive. It's a rags to riches game in its entirety, but it humanizes the homeless people. It humanizes people who are down on their luck, and it shows a different side of in some ways Japanese culture and just culture in general. And I mean, it's just so goofy and funny. I really do have a soft spot for the game overall. But I don't know, playing through it, there are some aspects of it that I think we're held down a little, but it's a good game. It's good. Don't get mad at me. It's a good game. It's a good game. It's good. Don't stop beating me up. No, don't do it. Okay. Finally, I don't know if I would count this as a JRPG, but I really wanted to include it because I love this game. It's Dragon's Dogma. Dragon's Dogma is the game that is teetering for me personally, the goated and great line. I would say it's great. It's a great game. It is so good. Dragon's Dogma has the most unique style of combat I think I've ever experienced in a JRPG. And it is proof that Capcom rarely ever misses, no matter what genre they try to tackle. And I really wish they'd make a new game, because it wasn't until Monster Hunter later on that I felt that sense of visceral, like, I can jump on top of a monster and ride them and really deal damage to specific parts. And this game was just so perfect in encapsulating that, and also telling a story that was really rooted in this fantastic-ish, mythical fantasy land. And I like that. It was great. So, this is my list. This is the list, you guys. What do you think? Are my opinions good? Are they bad? You're probably going to say they're bad. In any case, thank you guys for watching. I had fun doing this today, and it was a great way to get a lot of these opinions and topics out of my system in a succinct fashion. I probably won't be in the comment section for this video because I know it's going to be a complete shit show, but I will still read them if you want to drop some. Yeah, cool. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Xenoblade Chronicles X review coming soon. Okay, bye.